All right. Hey, everybody. As promised, Nicole Kornet is here live from Los Angeles. I see the sun shining down on her.
Oh
You can
yeah.
see me. I'm in the shadows here of Boston with the rain driving in my face and still waiting for spring to actually officially arrive. Nicole Kornet, older sister of Luke Kornet, who many Celtics fans are getting to know here. We obviously here at CLNS Media cover the Celtics night in, night out. And Nicole, on our Celtics postgame show that we do, we called the Garden Report. We obviously found out that Luke Kornet was traded to the Celtics. I don't think a ton of
Yep.
us knew all that much about him, between the Bulls and Knicks and other places that he's been so far in his young career. And immediately when I saw him, I was impressed. I just thought this guy brings a different approach to the game, something that the Celtics obviously need inside where they've had some injuries and stuff going on. So I want to bring you on and get to know him a little bit, but we'll get to know you as well here. Former UCLA basketball player, Oklahoma basketball player, and a big basketball family. With you
Yes,
guys
for
coming from
sure.
Texas and Nashville and some of the other places that you've lived. So let's start with you this last year. What's been going on in the COVID world?
Yes, so I live in LA. Like you mentioned, we moved around all the time when we were younger. We were born and raised in Lexington, Kentucky. That's where my dad's family's from. And after my dad finished playing, my mom joined the TV industry. And so she's a news anchor. And then we had to move when we were young. I think at like age 6, we moved to Arizona. And then from Arizona, we went to Texas, like the high school years. And then from Texas, I went to OU, Luke went to Vandy, other brother went to Arkansas. Like we were all over the place. Now my family's back in Nashville where Luke and my parents both went to Vandy. So we moved around a whole bunch, but I think that's kind of like our secret sauce in a way. It's what made our family so close because we just always had each other. And like my older brother had to go to 4 different high schools. Like it was insane. But I mean, it made us all super close just playing basketball out in the driveway every day. And that's, I don't know, that's what kept us together. Um, and yeah, I love my family. As you can tell from my crazy Twitter, I've really become into like a Luke Kornet stan account. It's embarrassing, but
I it
I just
reminds me. So back when Al Horford played for the Celtics, his sister was a very similar way. She was interacting with Celtics Twitter like crazy. I'm sure you've gotten to know the Wild fans and just the media
yeah,
lore. I mean, even in the last 2 weeks, I mean, you have Danny Ainge nicknaming him Big Bird. You have
I know.
Green Cornet becoming a thing. Like this is if he's gonna be sticking around with the Celtics, this is what you have to get used to. And I'm sure
It's
you've
a blast.
already.
That's what I love about it already. Like the fan base is awesome. I mean, obviously Luke started in New York of all places, where it's a crazy fan base, but and they really loved him there too in Garden Number One. But like I'm loving Boston. I love your Horford jersey. My dad actually was I think roommates with Tito. Like I don't know which team but he's friends with him. So he used to text Tito back and forth when Luke was on the Knicks and just talking about like each other's sons and whatnot. So I love that Luke's on the Celtics now. Like they're a great family. I never got to meet the sister though. So maybe fingers crossed one day. Who knows?
Down the line. I know she's over in Europe now, I think, running
Oh,
out the
nice.
pandemic. She does a podcast with us as well.
Oh,
So
cool.
maybe we'll get you a podcast one day. That
Who
could be a
knows?
possibility. So you mentioned your dad, Frank, NBA player. That's not something I knew as I got to know Luke a little bit. That Frank, his dad, played in the NBA for 2 seasons, went to Italy for a couple different years around the time you were born. What was that like growing up with, I guess at the time you were born, he was a former NBA player, but he was still trying to, at that time, keep his career alive, it seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, I credit my dad for like all of our athletic ability. Obviously, we got so much of his height. My mom's 5'7". She was the singer dancer in the group. And my dad, I mean, he like I feel bad for him. I mean, he talks a lot. Like he had a big regret from I mean, he was drafted, I think it was the first pick of the second round. And like he was good. And he went straight to Milwaukee back in the 80s when Milwaukee was very good. And he's just a classic typical rookie where like you're not playing much and he just was a stubborn hard-headed guy and was really upset with that. And when he played he did really well, but he got so upset in a way that his agent called him and they're saying that Italy was offering him like a bigger contract. He'd be guaranteed minutes. He like they just convinced him to buy his contract out and go to Europe. And my dad's just like, that was the biggest regret of my life. Like, you want the NBA. That's your dream as a kid, is to be in the NBA. Like, everyone in Europe's wanting to be in the NBA. And so he went over there and just had a hard time overseas, and then played for a few seasons, or just one even, I'm not sure. Came back, and then was in camp with the Pacers. And it was when Reggie was there. And he's like, Nicole, Reggie was passing me the ball. Like, I was and he unfortunately was the very last cut, because it's just hard, to break your way back into the league. So what's awesome though is, like, it's taught Luke a lot. It's just like, if you're in the NBA, you stay there and you do your best. And what I love about Luke too, unlike my dad, I think my dad was more of the arrogant type and was about numbers. Love you, Dad, if you're listening. But Luke is just such a team guy. It's never about himself. He'll be out there blocking out. The ball will fall right in front of him. I'm like, Luke, grab the rebound. But he's like, no, my teammate can get it. I'm just here to block out. He's just always about doing the right thing. And he just wants to win. He doesn't care how much he scores or whatever. He just loves defense and wants to protect the paint and do what he's told. And he's been that way his whole life. So me and my dad were more like the stat stuffers. We kind of like the numbers. But Luke, he's just a team guy.
We only talked to Luke once this year in the press conference. There, it was after that first game where he hit a couple threes, helped push that comeback against Oklahoma City. I think that was his second game here in Boston. And I remember they were asking him about how he fit in so well right away, and he just seemed to hit it off with Brad Stevens, the coach there, in an immediate fashion, because that's Brad's thing too. Know your role, do it really well, and immediately in that game, whether it was the pick and pop threes, rolls to the basket, protecting the rim, as you said, he was just able to find an immediate way to impact that game. And I remember him saying as well, he had a drive from Chicago to Milwaukee to meet up with the team.
Oh yeah, that's, again, very typical Luke. Luke is just the most humble, down to earth. He's not about flash, as you can tell with his big old black shoes and white socks. He has no fashion sense. I was the one always Luke, come on, you got to pick it up here. But he doesn't care. He just wants to. He's so minimalistic, and just this humble guy who will, drive his car till it breaks down. Never wants to get anything new. He's just a good old fashioned dude. And he did. He drove his little Toyota Camry all the way to. Milwaukee.
That's incredible. How's he fit in a Camry?
Oh, he doesn't. His knees are jammed up. Our family, we're used to that though. My dad's 6'9", other brother's 6'9", I'm 6'1". Planes, trains, and automobiles, we do not fit well. But still, we're always on the move. So you just kind of grin and bear it.
We got to get this guy a truck. So you said you were trying to get his fashion game up. He wasn't responsive to it.
He's actually gotten much better. I was seeing some of his pregame pictures. I'm like, Luke, I am proud of you. His cute little jeans that are fit now, fitted. And he's just a team sweats kind of guy. Never been into anything crazy. Again, he's he hates spending money. So, but he does look good. I am proud of his evolution. For some, it may, seem like not much, but for us who truly know him, it's Luke, you're doing all right.
So we're talking here with Nicole Kornet, the second of the three Kornets. You mentioned your older brother, John, who went and played in Arkansas college basketball. All three of you had basketball careers. You played at Oklahoma, UCLA. Luke went to Vanderbilt, just as your dad did. And as you said, Tracy, your mom, is a newscaster out there. So a very tight-knit family. So if you were going to describe, you mentioned your dad, your older brother, and then your younger brother in the NBA. We've all seen how Luke plays. What was your playing style? What was your dad's playing style? And what was your older brother's playing style?
Yeah, so I'm a shooter through and through. I love to shoot the three ball, but I am taller. So as a wing, I could post up the smaller guards. So that's always been fun. And growing up, my uncle, he played in Canisius in Buffalo, and he's a lefty, so he'd always have us work on our left-handed hooks, and we'd have chairs set up and do these post moves when we were younger. It's Camp Kornet. And my older brother is more of a traditional post. He's just a big-bodied 6'9" guy who will post you up, and he'll step out and shoot a three. He's nice touch. But Luke's definitely, it's funny. Luke's story is hilarious. I guess I'm here, so I'll just talk about him. He was always a wing growing up. He was, I know this sounds crazy, but he was short, like in high school at like 6'7", 6'8", say
This is incredible. I read
his,
about this.
his like senior year. But he was always just skinny little beanpole kid who developed late, and he had 0 offers. He had 0 recruitment. He was just like, honestly, he was kind of known as like Nicole's little brother, because I was the one who was getting recruited, and like I got my first offer from Kansas in 8th grade. Like I was a highly touted pick or recruit, and Luke was just always happy to go to my games, watch, like be there. Like he loved basketball. He'd come home every day at 3 p.m., go watch PTI, like turn on SportsCenter, knew every stat. He was that kind of guy, like, very smart, brainiac guy. I just wanted to watch my Nickelodeon, like Ned's Declassified, but Luke, no, I got to turn on SportsCenter. And he just like was just kind of always there and played really well. He was a great shooter, but not until like his senior year was like, I don't think he still wasn't the best player his senior year in high school. And they didn't even have any other D1 guys, but he was a good player, always smart, and would knock down the three. And then I think I was already at Oklahoma at the time. My AAU coach just called my dad up one day. He was like, "Hey, where's Luke going to school?" And he's like, "I don't know. I think he may just go to SMU in Dallas. He got an academic scholarship. He's saying he may want to like help out with the basketball team, maybe be a team manager. He just loves the game, wants to be around it." And my coach just like not having it. He's like, "No way. This kid's 6'8" and can shoot. Like, there's got to be someone, like, I've got a tournament we can play for unsigned seniors. It's next weekend. Like, tell Luke to just show up." So Luke goes, and there are no scouts there. It's just like random writers and reporters, just some random people. He goes off, like plays very well. And I think Miles Turner might have been on this team. Like there were some good guys there, and there was some buzz, and Luke just played very well. And then my coach is like, "Okay, there's a tournament next week, and there's real scouts." Everyone was like contacting these people. Gym was packed for Luke's game. He goes off again. The next day, my dad calls me and he's like, "Nicole, my phone has rung off the hook. Like Luke just got offers from Purdue, Kansas State, Vandy, Arizona." Like it was wild. So I was at OU in my dorm room, not believing what I was hearing. I'm like, "Luke, my Luke, like, like scholarships, like he's playing college basketball." And then graduation was like that next week, and then he was at Vandy. Like it was wild, like just wild. And then at Vanderbilt, his freshman year, he was supposed to redshirt. He still looked like this little baby boy, probably was like 6'9", 6'10" now, his freshman year. And they had injury problems. So they're like, "Luke, we're not going to redshirt you. You're going to play." And then he was just this fun guy, like coming off the bench who just knocked down some threes and then learned to play defense. And year after year just got better and better. Come his senior year, it's like this guy has like is a draft pick, like could be a late draft pick. And so it was just, it's been like the most exciting journey as a sister, seeing him just grow up and develop and become this man. And he's always been smart and just does what he's told. So it's been really like such a blessing.
Well, when you're 7'1", 7'2", and this is the thing, like I've covered basketball for a while, and you see guys have those growth spurts, say, 6'6", 6'9". I mean, for him, they get up to, what is it now, 7'1", 7'2"?
Yeah, he's like
just crazy that late in the game.
I know, and he's always been like, because he was kind of like a Kyle Korver, I feel like in high school, like was just a knockdown shooter, and then you just stretch, and it's like now he's 7'2" and can do that, and he. Like at Vandy, he's been, he has great post moves too. And he moves really well for being 7'2". And it's just like, wow, like this guy has a chance. And so it's been exciting just to see that evolution.
So I believe he has the most threes for a 7-footer in college history. Just a lot of milestones that he was able to pull off there at Vanderbilt. What was his time there like? What kind of things did he study? What kind of things is he into off the court as well?
So Luke is he's a very smart guy. He was actually like my math tutor as the older sister growing up. Like he was in a better math class than I was. And he got like a perfect score on his ACT for the math portion, like all from freshman year to senior year. He got a perfect 100 in math. Like never. He was a double
that's how you get to Vanderbilt. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a double major in mathematics and computer science. So he graduated like with computer science. And I mean, he's just always been like a very smart and with it dude, but loves sports. And I mean, what else is he into? Like, that's a tough question. It's been a while since I've been like in his day to day, but I
Hmm.
mean, we've just always, yeah, loved sports. We'll hang out. He'll play his Catan, his board games, or I don't even know. Like he just
That's
loves being outside and
it's a
just yeah,
perfect
like
fit.
frisbee, anything. Yeah.
Grant Williams is a big Catan guy too, so I'm sure. And this year is tough because I feel like there isn't a whole lot of team bonding. They
Yeah.
got two separate locker rooms, and you always just run into the next test and this and that. So I don't even know how much those guys have gotten to know him at this point. But if you mention Catan, that's Grant
No,
Williams'
I
thing.
know.
They're gonna bond
He's
over
talking
that.
about he's talking about his teammates, and he really is loving Boston, and he loves the guys. Like Marcus Smart, actually, we grew up like 10 minutes from each other. He went to Marcus High School, and we were at Liberty, so we'd go to LA Fitness, and Marcus and Phil Forte, they're both Oklahoma State guys. Like we'd run into them in the gym all the time. So it's even fun to see Marcus out there, and he's always just done so well, and he was that exact player in high school. And yeah, Luke's just loving. He's loving Boston and loves the guys.
So when he was coming out of college, he had those degrees. Obviously, he was still trying to push that career. How likely was it that he was going to get an NBA opportunity? I know he went to the summer league, did his thing there, got one of those two-way contracts, which is just great because a lot of guys like that, I mean, they'd probably be going to Europe or G League or some of these other places. But when they put those 2-year contracts in, I think that was the first year that they had those when he was coming out of Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
He was
he was
able to get a
actually
chance.
yeah, he was the very first two-way contract signed ever. Like he was the
Wow.
first one. So he we were expecting him to get drafted. He was supposed to be like late second round, and Boston actually had a pick at like 56. It's when they drafted Jabari Bird. And
Oh, geez.
Luke and I mean, he had a workout at Boston. He probably had 15 NBA workouts. Like he was everywhere. And like we were kind of excited for him, but then of course he didn't get drafted. And like the Knicks, the Cavs, like when LeBron was still in Cleveland, and a few other teams reached out, and like immediately right after the draft, and his agent was like trying to file phone calls. And New York, they had the best offer. Like, it wasn't just a training camp offer. It was a two-way right from the gate. And so Luke accepted, and then he was there half like in Westchester in New York, and just did really well. Like he played his max 20 games or whatever it was as a two-way guy, and just did well. And then he earned his second contract, and that's what he does. Like, yeah, I feel like people don't really expect much, but that's because they don't know much or haven't seen him. And then he goes out there and just performs well. So it's been an exciting journey. Like New York was a bunch of fun. Chicago, he's played with some cool franchises. So like, it's been
Sure.
a neat thing.
And that's a perfect one right away because the Knicks weren't that great back then. He was able to get some of that opportunity.
Yeah.
Going from Texas, I'm sure, to Nashville to New York City had to be a jump though.
Oh yeah, Luke, that was the funniest thing when it was the night of the draft. We hosted a draft party. It ended sadly, but we all put our teams like on a piece of paper and put them in a bowl, like to see like, oh, which team's Luke going. I picked New York. I was the only one who picked the Knicks, and I picked them, I think, because New York has always been my favorite city. And my
Hmm.
mom and I, growing up, we went to New York every summer, and it was just like our girls' trip thing. And Luke did do well in camp, he said, in New York, or this draft workout, and I just had this gut feeling. And also, Luke like hated the city of New York. Like he came, I think, at one time for one of our girls' trips, and he's just like, I'm just not a big city person. Like it's too loud, too much traffic. Like he just liked little old Lexington, Kentucky. Like he was a small town guy, and then he gets signed by them, and he ended up loving New York, and he's just completely changed his frame of mind. Like he's such a city guy now. It cracks me up. So that was definitely another funny thing that surprised me. But I'm like, look at Luke living a New York City life, and now Boston. So it's been great.
Chicago, it's a complete flip from what he was
Exactly.
used to. And he was able to make an impact right away. Double in his debut, 4
Yeah.
blocks. That was the first time that ever happened. Just everywhere he goes, it seems like he described that camp that he went to, and then showing up in New York, and then signing with Chicago. It feels like, and now Boston, every team that he's gone to, people are just like, who is this guy? And then they
Yeah.
see him play, and they're just like, all right, this guy can do some things.
I know. I feel like he surprises a bunch of people because
Hmm.
I don't know if like they size him up by just looking at him or he has his nerdy socks on or whatever, but it's like, no, this guy, like, that's what I love about Luke, and that's what I feel like fans can love about him is just he just wants to get in and win and like do the best he can and contribute to the team. And yeah, like you said earlier, that's why he loves Brad Stevens. He's just been like the coach I've been the most comfortable with ever. Like he just I feel like they're very similar in the way they think. And Brad is just matter of fact. He's like, all right, the team runs through like Jalen, Jason, Marcus, Kimba. Like those guys need to score the ball. Like give them the and Luke's like, all right, I'm gonna do that. And just, like he's very matter of fact and he loves that. And so I think that's kind of like a reason why they really work. And I'm excited for the Celtics. Of course, you never know what the future holds, but he's always admired Boston in the way that they run their organization. And so I hope things work out, but you never know.
For sure. So that trade deadline day was interesting. Everyone was talking about all the different people Boston might get. They obviously had a lot of centers at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and that was something Brad was talking about all year. We got Tice, we got Robert Williams, we got Tristan Thompson, all these different people, and we have to find a way to play all these guys. So it always looked like all year that there was going to be the possibility that one of those guys might end up getting shipped out, and it ended up being Tice. That was a tough one for a lot of us to swallow because he came over here from Germany and was just a fantastic player, helped them make the Eastern Conference Finals, ended up getting Mo Wagner back. Luke Kornet comes over, and people were just like, Tice, it's tough to see him go. But right away, as we talked about earlier, he was able to come in and make that impact, hit some threes, block some shots. And what struck out to me immediately about him is how well he moves at his size. I just think that's so impressive, as you've talked about, screen setter. His game's just kind of unique to me. Like, and then, Taco Fall poured the water on him after. So, I mean, it's just been a nice transition so far. He's gotten a lot of opportunity and he's made the most of it. He had a 4-block game. I think it's 14 blocks now in 12 games with the Celtics. So it's just been a nice fit overall.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he loves. And he loves guarding the pick and roll, like in a drop defense. I mean, like he loves being that guy. And I think a lot of people can look at him like before they know him, be like, oh, this guy's going to struggle with it. It's like, no, that's like Luke's bread and butter. Like he loves this and he loves.
It's incredible. How do you think, like he just seems so ready for this level, which is amazing to me. What do you think why do you think that is?
I don't know. I feel like he just understands the game and knows what he needs to do and what it takes to succeed at this level. And he's like, I need to learn. Like defense is number one, and being able to guard the pick and roll, obviously, since that happens so frequently. And like, yeah, you got to knock down your shots. Like, what's the beauty with Luke is I love when he does get subbed in, and like the game just feels like it changes, where he'll bring the defense out because he is long and stretches them, and like Jalen can just go off a screen hard adjacent. Like it feels, I don't know, it feels good to me. Maybe I'm biased because I'm his sister, but it's just like a different pace and a different type of game that Luke, I feel like, kind of is the reason why it's impacted in that regard. And yeah, I don't know, he just knows what to do, and he's always in the right spot, and like he is that type of leader where like he's vocal and will help you out, and yeah, he just wants his team to succeed.
For sure. What's the transition of Boston been like for him this year, especially with the pandemic going on and that's always tough in general, moving mid-season. But I think this is the most players ever moved at a trade deadline, which of course, like this year where it's going to be harder than ever for people to move, everybody's going to get traded. Was it tough?
It was wild. He was not expecting it. He had actually like received a call from one of his the GM at Chicago was like, I think we're keeping you, Luke. It's going to be this way.
It was late. Yeah, it was very late.
Boom, it changed, because you never know. And he was just like, whoa, like that's crazy. And his wife had just given birth to his first daughter, a first girl. So she was like a week or two old. Like a lot was happening in Luke's life already. And then you get traded, and then you have to immediately drive to Milwaukee the next day while his wife is like trying to cancel bills and certain thing. Like, all right, we're moving. But the baby was so young too that she couldn't like fly yet. So Luke's wife and the baby drove back to Nashville. It's where my parents are. And she's like, all right, we're staying here. And Luke has to go back to Boston. And luckily the team puts you up for like a month or two to kind of like have you figure things out. And so it's hard right now, I feel, for Luke because he's by himself. Like his wife and newborn are back in Nashville while he's by himself in Boston. But again, he loves basketball so much, and he loves Boston. So it's been like a as easy as it can be, I guess, of a transition.
Yeah.
Um, but it's definitely like a lot hits you in the face real fast.
You got to see one of his games out there in LA, though, and that actually was
Yeah.
one of his stronger games so far against the Lakers. There, won pretty handily in that game back when they were playing well a week or two ago. What was that like? I saw you got decent seats there.
Oh
Got
yeah,
to wave to him.
that was a blast. I love when Luke comes to like the West Coast trips. It's my favorite. And yeah, he actually has played well against the Lakers each time he's come to Staples, and yeah, it was fun with the less capacity too, just because you could hear everything. And I feel like Luke, I mean, he knew where I was and my friend was, so like he's funny. He'll just give little waves and little secret signs all game. And yeah, and he played well, and everyone at Staples was so mad, so it was great. Like we were the one, Boston fan there, and it was so much fun. So I enjoyed that one.
One of the things I saw on your page as well was him doing some karaoke and a nice Southern, like I don't even know how to describe it, but just a strong, almost
like Nickelback in that song too. Yeah,
a nice country voice, I'd say. Like he would do well with some country, I feel like. And again,
yeah.
You said your mom's the singing type. I think you got a little of it.
No, Luke, my brothers are actually very like musically inclined. I guess that's another hop. Like they both can play the piano well, guitar. They'll harmonize off one another. Like they really have the gift in that area. I don't. I'll sing still. It doesn't, deter me from doing it. But I'm not good. But yeah, Luke's funny. He's just a funny, like goofy guy, and will say anything and say his quirky words. That's like my whole family though. We'll just, I don't know, like instead of bad words, we'll try to be more wholesome and like, oh, fiddlesticks. Like that's just us. We're just nerds.
It's great. You can follow Nicole on Instagram, Twitter, all those different places. Your Twitter is NIC or NI Korn, right?
It's Nick Korn. It's like half Nicole and Kornet, just halfway. So NIC, yeah. KORN1. I think that's it. Nick Korn 1.
I think it's interesting that too. So you were someone who transferred when you were in college, Oklahoma to UCLA. In your final season, you had to do that sit-out year. Now in college, anybody can transfer, which I think is just this great thing for the sport.
Yeah, it's wild though too now. I feel like it's transfer portal galore. And I want
to ask you about it because, some people hate it. Some people think finally, because I know that year was probably tough for you where you had to sit out.
I mean, I really loved my transfer experience. I feel like I was one of the few though, like there weren't really many transfers then. And it was a big shock at OU because I was a captain. I played, there wasn't anything wrong necessarily, but it all started back in my recruiting process. It was between Stanford and Oklahoma, and I just loved OU's coaching staff. Like their girls were awesome. Whitney Hand, who played there, she went to my high school. Like I knew her and her family really well. They were number 3 in the nation at the time. Like they were good. But then there's Stanford, and Stanford's always great. And I was obsessed with California, and it was the first time I walked on campus somewhere, and I was like, this is it. Like I belong here. But Stanford was the one school you had to get into, and I mean you had but I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to do it. So they said, you're going to have to retake ACTs, SATs. I'm going to be in tutoring every Tuesday, Thursday. I have to be all AP. I was already AP, but senior schedule is normally pretty easy. It was my hardest year of high school. But I just didn't want to live with that regret of not going to my dream school. So a week before signing day, Tara Vanderveer calls me and she said, Nicole, I'm sorry that you didn't get in. And it was a dagger. She's like, I ran to admissions and I'm begging them, but we just don't get any pull. And my neighbor at the time, he was getting recruited by Stanford for football. And we were both, it was going to be our tag team thing. We were both going to go to Stanford, and he ended up accepting a full ride scholarship and got in, but he went to a big public school and was valedictorian. And we went to a really small, rigorous Christian school. And we were always the same growing up, same kind of grades all through middle school, and just went to different high schools. And then he gets in and I didn't, and it was hard, tough pill to swallow. but I still loved OU, and I ended up going in, and like it was such a fun sports school. Like we were all so tight knit. Like our football guys. I mean, it was when like who was our quarterback? It was Landry Jones, and then Trevor Knight, and then Baker, obviously, and like we were all good friends. And football supported volleyball, we supported soccer. Like we
Big
were
sports school,
so
yeah.
close, yeah. And then, but still, like there was something in my heart of hearts where I just like I knew I kind of always wanted Stanford, and it was eating at me like, oh, I don't really want to be a Norman. I want to be like, I just wanted the like glitz and the glam or like the prestige of something. And so I decided like my senior year, I'm like, I don't want to live with this regret, and I'm gonna go. And it was like everyone was shocked, and except for like my parents, the people who really knew me well. And I ended up transferring, and when you transfer, like if you didn't get into Stanford, like you still can't go. So I knew that was kind of like off the table. But that's when UCLA came knocking, and I never looked at any other California school. And again, I stepped foot on that campus, and it blew me away. I'm like, wow. Like I always thought LA is some like concrete jungle, but it's gorgeous. Like the school, the facilities, the people were amazing. It was like an all Christian coaching staff, which meant a lot to me. Like it was so neat. And I'm like, UCLA is the cooler Stanford, in my opinion. So I really like, I loved it. And I mean, I credit so much to UCLA, and even my career now, I feel like it's all because of UCLA.
And the Final Four this March. Incredible.
Honestly, you don't tell anyone, as I blurted on a podcast, but I didn't even pick them to win the play-in game. And I'm like, oh, Final Four, let's go.
Neither did I. I thought this team, they just got nailed in the play-in. So I went to Syracuse, and Syracuse was kind of in that area of the play-in as well. And I was actually expecting them to end up there. And then they didn't. And I saw UCLA and Michigan State in there, and I was just like, oh, Syracuse got lucky. Yeah. I wouldn't want anything to do with that.
I know, and I was expecting, like, I had watched Gonzaga a few times. I'm like, they're going to win it all. And then I expect them to, like, wax UCLA. But then UCLA still, I'm like, gosh, they should have won.
They had hard games every round. I kept picking against them. I was like, you know, I love their power forward there with the mustache. I can't think of his name. You know, they got that great guard. They just kept getting it done. And every round, I was just so shocked to see them keep going. And then, of course, the final upset to get into the Final Four there. That was just an amazing run.
It was fun. Yeah, I was not expecting it. And, like, kudos to Mick Cronin and all their guys. Like, I mean, I was there, I think, right when he came, I was leaving. And I don't know, he's just, turned the program around. And, like, I don't know, good Cincinnati dude, like, hardcore, loves defense. So, yeah, kudos. Congrats, UCLA. 8 clap.
She is Nicole Kornet. Helped us get to know Luke and the Kornets a little better here. And hopefully we'll have a long time to get to know them in years to come here. I would think that would be a great thing for the Celtics. And I think, you know, you guys would enjoy it well here. So appreciate you. People stay up to date with her. You can talk about the games on Twitter. I'm sure you're going to be tweeting as the playoffs come. It's just 9 games till the playoffs, which is going to be fun here coming up. So appreciate you being here on Dome Theory. And we will talk to you soon.
Of course. Thank you so much.